Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you're thinking about bringing a magnificent Norwegian Forest Cat into your life, you've probably, well, started crunching the numbers. Today, we're going to completely demystify the real financial commitment of adopting one of these incredible cats. We're going to look way past just that initial sticker shock, or in some cases, the surprisingly low price tag, to understand the actual value of what you're really paying for.
To help you make the best decision possible, we've broken this explainer down into 5 key parts: the baseline fee, what's included, why fees vary, adoption versus breeder, and budgeting year 1.
So, Part 1, the baseline fee, setting those financial expectations. Let's start right at the top with the upfront sticker price. A Norwegian Forest Cat adoption fee usually runs anywhere from $100 to $400 in the US. And actually, if you're tuning in from the UK, you're looking at broadly comparable figures, so about 75 to 300 pounds. Now, right off the bat, you might notice that this range is, well, it's a lot wider than it first appears. A $300 difference is pretty significant, and that really sets the stage for the big question. What exactly are you getting for that money?
Which brings us to Part 2. What is actually included? Unlocking that hidden value.
You know, it's a massive misconception that an adoption fee is just the price to buy a cat. That couldn't be further from the truth. A standard adoption fee is actually this heavily discounted veterinary package that bundles a ton of crucial services together. We're talking spay or neuter surgery, current vaccinations, sometimes an entire initial series if the cat's history is a mystery, a basic veterinary health screening, microchipping, and even initial flea and parasite treatments. Think about it. If you were to take in a stray cat off the street for free, you'd have to arrange and pay for every single one of these things out of pocket, bouncing between multiple vet visits.
To put that hidden value into perspective, let's just look at the surgery alone. A private spay or neuter surgery typically costs between $200 and $500, meaning this single inclusion is often worth way more than your entire adoption fee. You're basically getting the cat, plus the microchip, plus the vaccines, for less than the cost of one standard surgical procedure. It's a fantastic deal.
But of course, as you browse around different rescues, you might spot a fee approaching or maybe even exceeding $400. And you'd naturally wonder, is that higher cost actually fair? Like, is the rescue trying to pull a fast one on you?
The short answer is yes, it's absolutely justified. According to the ASPCA's adoption guidance, rescues are definitely not turning a profit. In fact, adoption fees across most reputable organizations are intentionally set below the actual cost of caring for the animal. So a higher fee simply reflects a much more thorough level of veterinary screening and care that they've already invested in that specific cat. The rescue is actually operating at a deficit, relying heavily on donations and fundraising to cover the gap.
Okay, moving on to Part 3, why adoption fees vary. Let's understand the market.
That wide variation in pricing we just talked about, well, it largely comes down to where you're adopting from. Municipal, city-run shelters typically charge on the much lower end. This just reflects their broader mission to move animals efficiently through the system, and they usually have lower per-animal overhead. On the flip side, breed-specific rescue organizations, groups dedicated entirely to Norwegian forest cats, they often charge more. Why? Because they're usually investing in far more intensive veterinary screening, paying for individualized foster care, and doing really thorough behavioral assessments before they place a cat.
And there are a few other fascinating variables that really swing the fee. Age is a massive one. Senior cats, usually those over 7 years old, are frequently heavily discounted to $50 or less. Sometimes the fee is waived entirely. This is just to encourage the adoption of older animals since they statistically wait way longer for homes. Geographic location plays a role too, with major cities generally seeing higher fees. Oh, and rescues also frequently offer multi-cat discounts if you're willing to keep a bonded pair together, which honestly is incredibly rewarding.
I also want to highlight something absolutely crucial here. If you're facing genuine financial constraints, please don't automatically assume you can't adopt. Having an honest, soft conversation with rescue staff can often uncover unadvertised fee flexibility. Many local community organizations or vet clinics even offer assistance programs for seniors, veterans, or folks facing temporary hardship. At the end of the day, the rescue's ultimate goal is simply to get these amazing cats into loving, capable homes.
Let's look at Part 4. Adoption versus breeder costs, the cost-benefit analysis. When we compare the upfront costs side by side, there is a stark difference. As we see here, our adoption range peaks at $400. But purchasing a Norwegian Forest Cat from a breeder, that's going to run you anywhere from $800 to $1,800. That is a massive gap.
and it represents some really substantial upfront savings for anyone who's open to an adult cat rather than absolutely needing a brand new kitten.
But wait, because those savings become even more massive when you read the fine print. Remember that heavily bundled veterinary package we just talked about with adoptions? Well, that $1,800 breeder kitten typically does not come with a spay or neuter surgery, and they often require a more complete, ongoing initial vaccination series. So those are immediate out-of-pocket expenses you're going to have to pay your vet right after picking up your incredibly expensive kitten.
All right, part 5. Budgeting your first year. The reality check.
Now that we really understand the initial transaction, we need to step back, zoom out, and look at the reality of your full first-year budget. Because let's be real, the adoption fee is just day one. It's vital to remember that your adoption fee does not cover immediate ongoing expenses. You've got to budget separately for high-quality food and liver. Plus, the Norwegian Forest Cat is a massive breed with really strong climbing instincts. You can't just buy a flimsy, cheap cat tree. You need heavy-duty, tall scratching posts and furniture. Even if, let's face it, they inevitably spend their first week sleeping in the cardboard box it came in. And furthermore, you absolutely must budget for ongoing specialized veterinary care, like the breed-specific HCM cardiac screening that a lot of responsible owners pursue.
When we calculate all of this comprehensively, putting the initial fee, the included or excluded vet care, and those ongoing first-year supplies side by side, the result is pretty eye-opening. The total first-year cost for an adopted Norwegian Forest Cat frequently runs $1,000 to $2,000 lower than the breeder path. That is a phenomenal amount of money. Money you could redirect into premium food, stellar veterinary care, or a really spectacular cat wall. And here's a surprising financial bonus that most people completely overlook. In some jurisdictions, because the adoption fee only covers a portion of the animal's actual care, functioning almost like a donation, adopting from a registered nonprofit might actually qualify as a tax-deductible charitable contribution. No way, right? You should absolutely ask the rescue for a receipt noting their nonprofit status and check with your tax professional.
So, bringing it all together. Given the incredible bundled value of the veterinary services and literally thousands of dollars in total first-year savings, the question remains, which path aligns best with your family's needs and financial reality? Are you ready to invest your budget into a lifelong companion's premium care, or are you just looking for a really expensive pedigree paper? See you in the next explainer.